Hey guys, tonight we're going back over 3,000 years to a land where the sun never sets and the air smells faintly of sand, incense, and onions. Lots of onions. You're standing in ancient Egypt barefoot, a little dizzy from the heat, and everyone around you seems to be chewing on something. Yep, it's onions. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is. I love knowing who's drifting off with me tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step into what looks like a temple library, or rather, a scroll archive. Several scribes are hunched over stacks of papyrus, ink pens moving steadily. You glance at one of the covers. It reads in ancient hieroglyphs, Ebers Papyrus, dated around 1550 BCE. This is one of the oldest medical texts in history. It's like an ancient Egyptian WebMD, filled with remedies for headaches, bellyaches, parasites, bad dreams, and yes, evil spirits. And on the very first page, not oil, not incense, not crushed scarabs, but onion. Surprised? You're not alone. To us, onions are kitchen basics. But to the Egyptians, they were medicine. Sacred, even mystical. The Ebers Papyrus describes onions as a purifier of airways, good for treating coughs, fever, digestive issues, and intestinal parasites. You watch a healer crush onions and mix them with honey in a clay pot, sealing it overnight to create a cough syrup. A kid drinks it with a grimace and a nod, like he just took something halfway between medicine and a dare. On the clinic wall, a faded household scroll lists onion wisdom. An onion a day keeps the spirits away. For toothache, rub onion on teeth thrice. For women's bleeding disorders, drink onion fig milk potion. The doctor claims its sharp smell clears inner imbalances and unclean spirits. Its ring-like shape, a symbol of eternal life and renewal. You try to sneak out, but bump into a high priest wearing gold. Have you been purified? He asks coldly. Before you can answer, you're handed a bowl of onion water. Hands, neck, face, all scrubbed. Turns out, before sacred rituals, Egyptians wash with onion infusions to cleanse not just the body, but the soul. The Book of the Dead even includes a prayer. May the scent of onion lift me from the land of sickness into the realm of light. But does it work? Modern studies show onions contain volatile sulfur compounds and flavonoids, mild antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory agents. Mummies have been found with traces of onions inside their cavities and coffins, suggesting real medical applications. Still, some scholars remain skeptical. Many treatments were passed down by trial and belief, not proof. But no doubt, ancient Egyptians trusted onions deeply, body, spirit, and afterlife included. So tonight, as you close your eyes and the fan hums softly, imagine yourself on a clay bed, a basket of onions nearby, and a scroll whispering, "Eat this, and you shall not dream of death." Honestly, that's kind of comforting. You follow a young apprentice out to the rear of the clinic. The moment the door swings open, you're hit with a stinging scent, pungent, earthy, sharp. This isn't a pantry. It's ancient Egypt's version of a medical kitchen. On the tables, clay bowls, animal fat, herb paste, and lots of onions. Turns out, Egyptians didn't just eat onions. They smeared them on people. For burns, sores, swelling, and infections, onions were a core ingredient in what we now call a poultice. You watch from the corner as a healer chops and mashes a handful of onions, then mixes it with a grayish animal fat. It looks a bit like they're making dip. He sets it under the sun for an hour, then gently spreads a mixture on a swollen ankle. A papyrus scroll beside him reads, "Let onion draw out the heat and poison, that the swelling may retreat." The patient winces, but nods. "Better than last night," he says. In ancient Egyptian medicine, topical treatment was a big deal. They believed the skin could absorb healing, and onion was seen as nature's sponge for toxins, for evil humors, for inflamed spirits. One formula you see on the scroll reads, "Mash onion with garlic and palm oil. apply to sore. Pus shall leave within 3 days. Another says, if the shoulder burns like fire, simmer onion and mulberry leaves in oil and lay it warm across the pain. Sound like folk remedies, right? But in 1500 BCE, this was cutting-edge medical protocol, systematically recorded, passed on, and practiced. A child whimpers. Her mother brings her in, an inflamed bite on her back, swollen and red. The doctor asks you to heat a flat stone. He plans to apply a warm onion paste and press it on the wound. Heat opens the skin. Onion pulls the sickness, he mutters. You scramble to bring the stone and watch as he carefully layers the warm, bubbling paste on her back. The girl starts to quiet down. You ask, does it really work? He smiles, faster than praying to the gods. Modern science gives him some credit. Onions contain allicin and quercetin, compounds known to reduce inflammation and fight microbes. Today, onion extract is even found in some herbal salves and anti-swelling gels. But the Egyptians weren't just thinking chemically. They believed the smell of onion drove out invisible spirits, and its heat forced bad forces to the surface. Their hot and cold humors may not align with modern biology, but as a framework for healing, it made sense to them. Night falls. Torches flicker outside the clinic. You sit on the step, watching the girl nibble on a date, her mother patting her back. The scent of warm onion drifts in the breeze. They didn't have antibiotics, you think, but they had onions, belief, and patience. And somehow, in the torchlight, that feels just enough. You step into a humid room where the air is thick with steam and the unmistakable scent of boiled onion. In the center, a man sits wrapped in cloth, flushed, sweating, barely upright. You're told this is one of ancient Egypt's common fever remedies, hot onion beer. Yes, onion, boiled, in beer, and people drank it, voluntarily. The healer lifts a clay pot from the coals. Onion slices bob in golden brown liquid, foaming slightly at the top. He stirs it with a wooden spoon and pours it into a cup. The patient gulps it down. Sweat breaks instantly on his forehead. Heat forces out dampness. Onion clears the chest, the doctor says with a nod. You raise an eyebrow. Isn't that beer? He shrugs. Yes, but not for joy. In ancient Egypt, beer wasn't just for drinking, it was food. It was thick, low in alcohol, and often used to carry herbal medicine. When mixed with onions, it became one of the go-to remedies for fevers and chest illnesses. You glance at a nearby scroll where a brief recipe reads, chop 2 onions, boil in beer, give to one who burns with fever. It's a line found on a fragment of the Edwin Smith Papyrus, one of Egypt's most important medical texts. Some historians believe this was their version of cold remedy soup. You continue to observe. After the drink, the patient is covered in blankets to sweat it out. The room smells of incense resin and smoldering onion peels, meant to drive out evil vapors. Another patient across the room is being treated differently. Hot onion packs are applied under the arms and feet. The openings of the body, the doctor explains, where heat escapes. You think this is basically a spa day with onions. So, why onions for fevers? Modern science suggests that onion sulfur compounds may stimulate circulation, induce sweating, and help clear airways. Combined with hot liquid and warmth, it could provide genuine relief for minor fevers. Not a miracle, but not nonsense either. Not everyone's a fan, though. You hear a nearby priest sneezing uncontrollably, complaining the whole place smells like the underworld cooking dinner. The healer just chuckles. Good. That means the bad spirits are leaving. Modern scholars are split. Some argue that these treatments were mostly ritual or placebo, while others say that for their time, this was a functional, practical remedy. A breeze rustles the curtain. You step out into the night, your hair faintly scented with onion steam. You think back to the patient, exhaling after a strange brew, as if to say, well, at least I tried. In a world with no thermometers and no antibiotics, a hot onion beer was as close as they came to comfort. You've been assigned to help in the temple basement, assisting with the preparation of a newly uncovered mummy. The air is stifling, dusty, dry, and oddly tinged with onion. You're not imagining it. There are actual onion rings tucked into the mummy's eye sockets. Even archaeologists were stunned when this was first discovered. In the 19th century, a British excavation team in southwest Cairo documented a mummy with intact onion rings placed directly in the eyes and onion remnants in the chest cavity. You watch as the priest delicately removed the dried rings and placed them on a gold-rimmed tray. Someone murmurs, so he may see clearly in the realm beyond. The papyrus beside them reads, "He who wear the onion ring shall gaze like the son of Duat, discerning truth from shadow." It may sound mystical, but the logic is rooted in belief. The layered structure of an onion symbolized protection, spiritual depth, and the passage through layers of existence. The eyes, to ancient Egyptians, were gateways between life and the afterlife, between flesh and spirit. So placing a strong-scented, multi-layered object into the eyes wasn't just symbolic, it was intentional, to ward off evil, guide the soul, and preserve clarity. You sit near the wall, watching the embalming continue. Resins are applied, linen wraps tightened, final incantations whispered. But today, your attention lingers on these smaller gestures. Onion slices in the coffin, dry bulbs placed in the corpse's hands, tiny pearl-sized onions tucked between the toes. It's not random. A line from the Book of the Dead reads, "Let the onion be smelled and not rot. May its scent guide the soul." Almost like a spiritual GPS. Another belief was that onion rings shielded the soul from Osiris's judgmental gaze. If the god stared too long, your sins might be exposed. The onion, with its pungency and shape, became a kind protective charm. Of course, modern scholars debate this. Some say onions were purely preservative, the sulfur helping slow decay. Others insist a ritual and symbolic role outweighed any biological function. You help seal the jars and carry the cloth sack of onion remnants up the temple ramp. You glance back at the fully wrapped mummy, now resting, sealed in layers of spells, resins, and onions. Softly you whisper, "Safe travels." And maybe it's your imagination, but on that rising breeze, you catch a warm, oddly comforting scent. The smell of onions. You're helping clear out a market stall when a young noble storms in, eyes red-rimmed, face twisted like he just lost his favorite camel. "I want 3 baskets of onions," he says. "The hottest you've got." You glance at his hand. He's holding something torn in two. A letter, likely a breakup. In ancient Egypt, emotions were treated as illness. Grief, restlessness, nightmares, depression. They were called disorder of the heart. And when it came to treating the heart, doctors prescribed onions. It wasn't superstition, it was logic. Onions made you cry. They were pungent. They flushed the system, moved wetness, and cleansed the spirit. All valuable when your soul felt soggy. In one papyrus you read, "For confusion of the heart, burn onion juice with date wine and drink. To still wild dreams, place dried onion skin near the bed and breathe its scent." In temple records devoted to the goddess Hathor, patron of love and emotion, there's a ritual. For heartbreak, rub onion paste on the chest, speak the beloved's name thrice, and release the ache. Sounds a bit like modern-day spicy comfort food, doesn't it? Except they had no chili oil. Just onions. Another case. A scribe, demoted unfairly, hadn't slept in 3 days. The healer's prescription? Boil onion skins, steam the room, inhale deeply and say aloud, "My heart is calm as a lake." He slept for 12 hours straight. Modern science tells us onion vapors stimulate olfactory nerves and affect heart rate and breathing slightly. It's plausible with scent, warmth, and ritual, calm could follow. But not everyone finds relief. That heartbroken noble? He's now sitting in the dust with 3 baskets of onions, sobbing into a half-peeled one and wailing, She said, I have no soul. You crouch beside him. You want to say something. Instead, you silently offer another onion. He cries louder. These small human moments, heartbreak, healing, hope, are captured in papyrus texts. Doctors wrote them down, copied them, passed them on, almost like they were saying, I don't know what you're going through, but here, try an onion. You leave the stall. Night's falling. In the distance, a group gathers around a fire, taking turns to breathe steam from a boiling onion pot. It looks like meditation. There's something salty in the wind, a little bitter, a little warm. Maybe, just maybe, onions really do understand the human heart. Today, you're assisting an elderly physician in sorting through his case records. His beard is silver, but his hands are steady as stone. He's grinding something with a pestle, and of course, you recognize the scent. Onion again? You ask. He nods. Lots of headaches today. In ancient Egypt, headaches were taken seriously. From laborers to priests, from soldiers to scribes, anyone could suffer from sun sickness, spirit strain, or wind entering the skull. And one of the most common remedies? Onion compresses, directly to the forehead. You watch the doctor slice onions thin, crush them with a stone, and mix them with a brownish plant fat. He spreads the paste on a square of linen, folds it gently, and places it on a patient's brow. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply, he says. The patient relaxes, jaw unclenching, shoulder sinking. A nearby scroll reads, If the head throbs like hammering, mix onion, parsley, fig leaves. Crush to a paste. Lay upon the brow. You find another scroll, more detailed, even prescriptive about location-specific onion applications. Temple pain onion plus ground bronze, applied on both sides. Rear skull pain onion plus hops decoction, head steamed under cloth. Full head pressure drink onion juice with beer, then sit in silence. The physician chuckles. It's like changing the wind. Different headaches need different exits. You stir another paste batch and consider the logic. Onion sulfuric compounds can stimulate mucus flow, possibly easing sinus pressure or congestion headaches. Cold or warm compresses do help. And that silent sitting instruction may be an ancient form of mindfulness. Outside, an elderly scribe sits on a stone step, forehead wrapped in an onion-stuffed linen bandage, eyes closed, breathing slow. You whisper, how often does he do this? The doctor glances at the sun, just before it sets. Onion works best before the wind changes. Today we might reach for aspirin, massage tools, peppermint oils. But back then, a folded cloth, a slice of onion, and a few quiet minutes, that was all the medicine they had. You sit on the low garden wall. Dry reeds rustle in the breeze. You think, maybe care isn't complicated. Maybe it's just someone noticing your pain and pressing a warm onion against your forehead. You're about to finish your shift when a priest calls you over. Take these to the amulet chamber, he says. You expect gold or gems. Instead, you walk into a room that smells so strongly of onions your eyes start to water. Hanging on the wall, strings of dried onions, onion skins, onion leaf charms. In ancient Egypt, amulets weren't fashion, they were protection. Against spirits, sickness, misfortune. And onions, they had all the right qualifications. Pungent smell to repel evil. Circular layers, symbol of wholeness and defense. Easily dried, perfect for carrying or burial. You read a carving on the wall. The onion breathes in all directions. It seals the 9 gates, so no harm may enter. A priest is sewing a dried onion petal, wrapped in linen, into a leather pouch. He tells you this kind of amulet travels with soldiers into battle, babies into sleep, and the dead into the afterlife. You remember the sobbing noble from the other day. Now you realize the weird little object on his necklace? A dried onion bulb. You ask, Does this really keep evil away? The priest smiles. No, but it reminds you you're trying to protect yourself. That answer sticks with you. Maybe these weren't just talismans. Maybe they were reminders that people are worth guarding. Modern archaeologists have indeed found onion remnants in burial wrappings, clothing seams, and grave goods, especially in child mummies and soldiers' tombs, suggesting wide cultural use. Some scholars downplay the significance, calling it cheap, accessible material. But that might be exactly why it mattered: the people's amulet. As evening falls, sunlight filters through temple pillars and hits a wall of hanging onions. You watch a mother quietly sew a tiny onion pouch onto her child's shirt. She whispers, "Grow strong, little one, be safe from harm." You glance at the amulet again. It's humble, yes, but strangely beautiful. Maybe we all need something like that. A reminder we are worth protecting. Today, you're assigned to assist with tax scrolls. You expect a dull day, columns of grain counts and market lists, until you read this line. Year 5 of the flood, onion prices triple. Workers strike for 3 days. You look up, the doctor scribe sighs. Onions, again. In ancient Egypt, onions weren't just medicine, food, and magic. They were also an economic asset, and at times, a trigger for unrest. It all came down to one fact. If everyone needs onions to heal, to pray, to live, what happens when they get expensive? You skim more scrolls. Over and over, you find entries about onion shortages, onion inflation, onion seizures by nobles. One year, the Nile flooded early. Onion crops failed. Prices rose 5-fold. Poor families could only afford bitter substitutes. One decree reads, "Temple onions are not to be sold to citizens. Violation, 50 lashes." Another scroll records a labor strike. The workers hadn't received their onion wages. It became known as the first medical supply uprising. You remember what a doctor once said: "Every remedy begins in a farmer's field with a single planted bulb." Now you get it. Doctors may know what to apply, but if the market are controlled, if officials hoard or nobles buy it all up, then the poor can't even press a slice to their foreheads. A mother brings in her feverish child. She pleads, "Use just a little onion paste. I have some at home for my father." The physician pauses. He pulls out a pinch of almost dry powder and says, "This one's free." You swallow a lump in your throat. It's strange, isn't it? One plant, capable of treating fevers, calming grief, guiding souls, could also be taxed, restricted, hoarded. Historians analyzing these crises wrote, the onion was the economic nerve of Egyptian health. At sunset, you leave the records hall. A vendor on the roadside glances around, then quietly hands you a small, slightly shriveled onion. "Take it, boy. Prices rise tomorrow." You cradle it in your hand like a quiet little victory. You follow the priests up to the rooftop of the temple for the sunrise ceremony. The sky is still navy blue. The statue of Ra, the sun god, waits in silence. In your hands, not gold, not gems, a basket of onions. "The sun god likes this," you whisper. "Not likes," the priest says quietly. "He needs it." In ancient Egypt, onions were sacred to Ra, the sun god. Their round-shaped layered rings and penetrating scent symbolize divine energy, protection, and eternal return. Each layer like an orbit, each ring echoing the cycle of sunrise to sunset. You help arrange the offering. A ring of onions encircles a golden disc, symbol of the sun. Some bulbs are partially peeled, symbolizing rebirth. Some are halved to show their inner rings, the eye within the eye. The priest chants, "Let onions circle seal the void. Let onion scent pierce the dark. Let Ra return from the night." You light incense. The smoke rises, a blend of onion skins, frankincense, and herbs. It wraps around the statue. Onions don't just heal people, the priest murmurs. They wake the gods. You've heard that when a statue of Ra loses its shine, the first cleansing step is to boil onion skins and wash the golden eyes, so the god may see again. You flip through temple records and find onions used for priestly purification, the first food offered on sun festivals, light calling meals in drought or flood rituals, onion rings placed in circles during royal coronations or road blessings. It's more than food. It's a symbolic command to return the light. Modern scholars remain divided. Some call it overinterpretation, but others argue that Egyptian theology relied on physical objects as divine conduits, and onions with their scent, shape, and layers were ideal. You lean toward the second theory, because today, as the first ray of sunlight cuts through the temple door, you watch it hit a halved onion, and the rings catch the light, one by one, like a golden ripple waking up. The sun rises, the world stirs, and you know, the first thing Ra saw today was a ring of onions. You walk beside a rural healer down a dusty path under moonlight. The wind rustles the reeds. Dogs bark in the distance. He carries a woven basket slung over his back, linen wraps, a clay pot, a pinch of resin, and 2 onions. 3 patients tonight, he says. 1 with ear pain, 1 coughing, 1 bad dreams. You blink. Onions treat nightmares. He doesn't answer, just smiles and walks a bit faster. The first house, a little boy with an aching ear. The healer sits beside him, slices an onion, gently warms it over a fire, wraps it in linen, and presses it behind the ear. Warmth drives the wet wind from the ear, he says. Heat is its feet, scent is its knife. The second house, an old man wheezing with deep, painful coughs. The healer cuts the second onion, boils it in water, stirs in honey. Before drinking, hold your breath 3 times, he instructs. Then say, Ra shines upon me. The old man obeys. He coughs harder, but minutes later settles. His shoulders relax. A calm returns to his face. The third house, a woman haunted by a recurring dream. She walks a desert. Far ahead, a weeping sphinx cries out. She always wakes up just before reaching it, heart pounding. The healer says nothing. He steeps onion skins and herbs in a clay pot, makes her sit and breathe the rising steam. This is onion soul cleanse, he says. I won't interpret your dream, but I'll help you sleep tonight. You carry the basket back through the silent night. You know something? The healer says. Onion isn't the strongest medicine, but it's the one least afraid of darkness. What do you mean? You ask. It endures. It doesn't flinch when the night gets close. You think of the patients. Their illnesses, maybe not dire, but their loneliness, very real. And that warmed onion, that scented vapor, it reminded them, you are not alone. Someone remembers your pain. You glance up. The stars blink gently overhead. And suddenly you understand why the Egyptians trusted onions. Not just because they heal, but because they are warm, humble, reliable, like a hand that's still there, even in the dark. Today you follow the royal head chef into the palace kitchens. The door opens and out comes a scent of roasted meats, sweet wine, and, yes, onions. Don't look so surprised, the chef says with a grin. The pharaoh's supper always includes onion. In ancient Egypt, royalty didn't just eat luxuries, they ate medicinally. Especially as they aged, kings and queens favored meals that could strengthen, soothe, or cleanse. And onions, a staple of noble nourishment. The kitchen is divided into 3 zones. One for meats and stews, one for grains and breads, and a quiet, fire-lit corner, the sacred cuisine, foods enhanced with herbs, spices, and healing ingredients. The chef lifts a clay lid. Inside simmers a dish of stewed lamb, figs, and sliced onions. For Ramses to calm his cough, the chef says. He sleeps well after this. As you help slice onions, you notice the care. They're cut thin, almost transparent, to avoid releasing aggressive scent. Hands are rubbed with beeswax to shield the skin from biting oils. Onion is only paired with gentle ingredients to avoid flavor clash. The belief? Cooking is a ritual of balance. An onion, sharp, soft, sweet, and strong, was the most adaptable of plants. In a worn scroll labeled Upper Chamber Night Meals, you read, "If the king's chest is heavy with cough, boil 3 onions in sweet wine. Serve warm before sleep. If the queen's moon cycle is unsteady, stew onion with cheese for balance. After battle, His Majesty shall drink onion broth to expel inner wind." Modern science supports much of this. Onions carry antimicrobial sulfur, anti-inflammatory flavonoids, and warm, soothing textures for throat and stomach. In a world without medicine, eating smart was the safest kind of healing for the elite. You watch the chef ladle the stew into a golden-rimmed bowl and carry it to an elderly, noble woman. She smiles. "Onion again? Good. I'll sleep tonight." And in that moment, it hits you, even here, amid silks and jewels, what people want most is simple. A meal that brings peace. And sleep that doesn't cough. You look at the firelight dancing in the oven, and you think, maybe the most precious thing in this palace isn't gold. It's a warm bowl of onion stew. Today, you're assigned to help copy a sacred text, the Book of the Dead. You gently unroll the papyrus, and as you do, a faint, familiar scent rises. Yes, again, onions. "That's not a kitchen onion," your mentor says. "That's the guardian of the soul's path." You blink. He nods. Many verses mention it. You've just never noticed. You begin to copy, line by line. One passage reads, "When the soul walks a river of shadow, let onion scent mask the breath of life, so no demon may smell it." Another states, "When truth is weighed and judgment hangs, let onion rest upon the heart, for only the sincere shall stand." You pause. It sounds mythic, but it's written with total solemnity. These were real rituals. Your mentor whispers. They believed onion hid the scent of the living, so spirits wouldn't notice intruders. You find an illustration. A soul passes through a great gate. Beside it stands a deity, holding an onion. That's the guardian of passage. Your mentor explains, "If you are ready, you will not fear its smell." You copy more. There are dozens of onion references. Souls enter the Hall of Scales where onion petals on the chest, as a sign of honesty. One burial spell reads, "May my onion never rot, never stink. Let stay with me forever." Some mummies were found with onions in the throat, a symbol that their speech would not lie before the gods. You suddenly see it. Just as the living use onions to heal flesh, the dead use them to heal the soul. And healing was never just for the body. You ask your mentor, "Do onions really have that power?" He smiles. "That depends on whether you believe death is a journey. If it is," he says, "then onion is a key you carry in your pocket." Night falls. You close the scroll. A breeze blows out the candle and stirs a loose page. It reads, "Let them bury me with scent of onion, so I may rest in silence." You nod slowly. There may be no medicine for forever, but maybe onions can walk with us. Just a little further. Today, you're assigned to the Royal Treasury Office to help transcribe tax ledgers. A massive scroll is laid out in front of you, listing items for collection. Grain, honey, linen, cattle, and onions. Not just once. 2 full pages are dedicated to onion tax. You read aloud, 3 households to provide 560 onions. Too few, the scribe frowns. That land should yield at least 1,000. In ancient Egypt, onions weren't just food or medicine. They were taxable goods. Especially during the New Kingdom, onion harvests were officially recorded and taxes assessed by weight count or plot size. Some households owed a basket every 10 days. Others paid per acre. As you read further, the ledger outlines how the onion tax was used. Part sent to the military for meals and field treatments. Part delivered to temples for rituals and offerings. The rest stored in the royal Pharaoh kitchen for doctors and palace meals. You realize something stunning. Onions were a state resource. Even the payment methods varied. Farmers used dried onion skins to settle debts. Physicians surrendered part of their onion income to renew licenses. One fine reads, "Tax evasion, guilty. Onion beds to be seized by the official." A complaint scroll catches your eye. "My household has only 3 people, but we are ordered to provide 500 onions. I beg for reduction." Stamp below. Denied. Suddenly you understand. A plant so embedded in ritual, diet, and healing was bound to become institutionalized. Doctors couldn't work without it. Priests couldn't sacrifice without it. The pharaoh himself likely grumbled if the stew lacked onion. This wasn't just food. It was infrastructure. You ask the scribe, "Doesn't this seem excessive?" He chuckles. If the day comes when onions are missing from the tax scroll, that will be true disaster. Today, we cry when we cut it. But back then, onions could decide a family's fortune or a nation's balance sheet. As you roll up the scroll and walk past the storage hall, you see children peeling onions to meet their household quota, teary-eyed and laughing. This is our tribute. And you think, maybe no other thing on earth has ever taken itself quite as seriously as an onion. You're standing at the edge of a temple hall, watching a rehearsal of a sacred rite, the weighing of the heart. In Egyptian belief, when a person dies, their heart is placed on a scale and weighed against a feather of Ma'at, truth. If it's lighter, the soul ascends. Heavier, darkness awaits. But today, something else is placed beside the scale. A peeled onion. "What's that for?" you whisper. An old priest replies, "That's the scent trial." The what? Some souls lie too well. You can't judge their words. But their scent? That betrays. You blink. So, onions aren't just eaten, burned, applied. They are smelled as spiritual eye detectors. Papyrus scrolls confirm it. If the heart be unsure, place onion near. Gods cannot be deceived. If the soul lies, the onion will sting the nose. If truthful, it will smell like morning fog. You watch the priest hold the onion near the dead one's nose and mouth. He chants, "Let those true not fear the scent." To them, honesty was felt through fragrance. You remember now. The dream cleanses, the breath rituals, the treatments for palpitations and grief. And you understand, onion was never there to fix you. It was there to see you. Modern scholars call this a symbolic synesthetic trial. The use of scent as divine language. Not scientific, no, but in a world governed by ritual and symbolism. Smell spoke to the gods. You watch sunlight spill across the onion resting in its dish. It doesn't move, doesn't speak, but it watches. In our world, lying takes skill. In ancient Egypt, it only took an onion to expose the truth. The ceremony ends. The hall clears. You step closer and inhale gently. The onion scent is sharp, but kind, as if it's saying, "I'm not afraid of who you are." And you think, we spend our lives hiding, editing, pretending, but maybe in the end, what decides where we go is whether we're ready to face ourselves. Today, you're traveling with an excavation team to a crumbled border shrine. Sunlight slides over broken stones. Shards of pottery glint in the weeds. It's a quiet dig, no one expects much. But beneath the tiles, the team uncovers a stone slab etched with something strange. At the center, a goddess with onion-shaped hair. Her face is eroded, barely visible, but her hair, layered, spiral like an onion, remains clear. Below the carving, faint glyphs. You and a scholar study them for hours, comparing signs and fragments. Finally, a partial translation. She who watches, coughing in sadness and night. You sit in silence. In all the papyri you've read, all the temple records, there is no mention of this deity. No name, no rituals, no titles, nothing official. Do we find forgotten goddess? You whisper. Maybe not forgotten, your professor murmurs. Maybe never acknowledged. In the following days, the walls give you more clues. Murals show villagers coughing under moonlight, looking skyward, a woman in an onion-patterned cloak, a mother holding a weeping baby, lighting a burner of onion skins, a traveler sleeping beside a fallen onion, inscribed with 4 glyphs. You're not alone. And you realize maybe they didn't worship her in public. Maybe they only needed her in the quietest, weakest moments, when no one else was listening. No towers, no hymns, just a slice left by the bedside, a bit of steam in the dark, a hope carried by unseen hands. She may have no name. She may be no more than a whisper, but she's everything onions meant to them. Tears without bitterness, sharpness without cruelty, strength without noise. On your last day at the site, you slip a broken shard into your pocket, just a fragment of her onion-shaped hair. You carry it like a secret charm. The wind stirs, the grass bends, and your heartbeat sounds like prayer. She won't appear, but she'll be there. Well, you've come a long way. From temple clinics beneath the pyramids, to midnight kitchens, to scrolls scribbled with prayers, to shadowed halls where hearts are weighed. And always, beside you, was a humble onion. Not a miracle, not magic, just a presence. There when you needed it most, sharp, warm, a little teary, but full of hope. Now it's time to rest. Let your breath grow slower. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your thoughts drift past like wind. No need to chase or hold. If you like, close your eyes. Maybe tonight, you'll dream of an old figure in an onion-colored cloak, whispering beside you. It's okay. I'm here. Sleep well, and may you wake, still wrapped in that same quiet kindness.